Investing in gold today could yield enormous dividends. We're going to look at gold investing, some very scary upcoming economic trends, and how to prepare and even thrive in the future. Very serious topic today, and whether you invest in gold or metals or not, listen to this information, as what could happen in the very near future is going to greatly impact you and your family. Now, one of the biggest drops in history last week in the markets, thousands of points erased from the Dow, about $6 trillion gone over the span of a single week. Now, to counteract this drop, the Fed dropped interest rates by 0.5 point. Now, that doesn't seem significant, but it is, and here's why. Back in October 19th, 1987, the U.S. suffered the worst market crash in history, dropped about 23% in just a few hours. All around the world, the markets dropped by similar amounts, about 10% of total global GDP wiped off the map. Now, the very next day, the Fed announced that they'd step in, and the following week, they cut interest rates by 0.5 point. Now, they did the same thing last week, but here's the difference. Back in 1987, rates over 7%, so 0.5 point cut is not a big deal. Last week, the rate went from 1.75 to 1.25. Now, dropping interest rates, that's one of the primary tools available to counter recessions. When you drop rates, people borrow more money, economy speeds up. It's pretty basic premise, but we haven't even officially entered into a recession yet, and we're at 1% interest. What happens when we hit the recession? Where can you go from 1% or 0.5% interest rates? Now, the answer is negative interest rates, -1%, -2%. Now, many people still not aware of this actual scenario, but this is bizarro world where you pay the bank for the privilege of holding your money instead of them paying you interest. Now, if you think that is crazy, listen to this. Negative interest rates are already here in other countries. Most of the bonds in Europe and Japan, and about 30% of all investment-grade debt around the world carries negative yields already. Countries had no other choice than to instate this crazy scenario, and it has actually not even resulted in the outcomes that they were looking for. Now, U.S. policymakers, they don't want to go to negative interest. They've said so. In fact, because of the connection with the derivatives market, and that's a $1 trillion house of cards itself, to do so would be catastrophic. Now, keep in mind, despite that risk, President Trump has already suggested the Fed should drop interest rates into the negatives. And this would be so the U.S. government can refinance its $23 trillion debt. Yes, every taxpayer in the USA officially owes about $190,000 of this ever-growing debt. And it's not just the USA, it's all around the world. So when the recession hits, not if, but when, one option is this crazy negative interest rate scenario, which most people agree is going to implode the U.S. economy, and policymakers don't seem to want to go there. Now, another option is to just print money. They've done that before. They can do it again. Now, we're not going to dig deeply into what happens when countries print money, but historically, it's never ended well. Now, from a very basic premise, dollars lose their value, inflation goes crazy, sometimes we get hyperinflation, and hard assets like gold and silver will increase. So if interest yields decline or reach negative interest rates, investors take out their cash and flock to hard assets like gold. Why is anybody going to want to pay money for the privilege of being in the bank? If the stock market tanks, people flock to hard assets like gold or silver. If they print money, people start to lose faith in paper. Paper devalues, inflation increases. Solution, gold or silver. Every potential future scenario looks pretty good for gold investing and for metals in general. Now, this is only a secret to the working class. Last year, central banks bought 651 tons of gold. Governments like Russia, China, Poland, all openly and covertly buying up literal tons of gold. And as the public becomes increasingly aware of this situation, we're likely going to see people flocking to hard assets as a defensive position. That's going to increase the prices even further. Now, I noticed already that some silver products like Silver Eagles and Maple Monster boxes are completely sold out. Now, in a previous video, we had people who thought we were against precious metals because we showed a chart of how silver didn't do that well historically in recessions. And that's just a fact. It can't be changed. But I also stated that we believe everyone should own precious metals. Also keep in mind, we're not entering an ordinary garden variety recession this time, and here's why. So beyond the stock market, we have other economic landmines like the student loan debt. Okay, that's second now only to mortgages as the highest consumer loan category. 45 million people hold 1.6 trillion in debt. $101 billion from 5.1 million borrowers is already in default. So 5.1 million people 1 year behind in payments or more. And that's how many people are defaulting in a great economy. What's going to happen when the economy slows down? We also have the subprime car loans bubble. We've got an inverted yield curve. That's with 100% accuracy always predicted recessions. We've got a massive derivatives bubble that some people suggest globally is over $1 quadrillion. This is pretty scary. Now, if you aren't aware of the derivatives issue, I'm going to post a link at the top and at the end of this video. We also have the collapse of retail. Almost 10,000 retail stores closed last year. We've got quantitative easing, which is printing money. We've got election uncertainty coming up just around the corner. And of course, now, on top of it all, we have pandemics. So this is happening. Nobody ever expects life as we know it to change, but it always does. Nobody expects wars, famines, depressions, recessions, but they come. So what are some of the ways we can be prepared? So while silver didn't do that well in recessions and gold did just marginally okay, it definitely makes sense to have some on hand. Now, if you set aside a few dollars every single week, you add to your stack, one day you might be very happy that you did. Now, most people, they're spending money on fancy coffee and entertainment every single day like the economy is going to last forever. But what if it doesn't? Buying gold, buying silver, it's very easy. There's a lot of reputable online providers like Kitco, goldsilver.com, bullionvault.com. I personally like to support my local bullion dealer. Some people might argue it's better to purchase anonymously, but that's another story. Now, in addition to gold or metals, there's a lot of ways to insulate yourself from this economic downturn. One of those is to start a side hustle. Now, if you've got little to no money, you can start a YouTube channel. You can write a book. You can start a blog. You can become an affiliate. We live in the greatest time in history to make money. Even in recessions, people still buy books. They still watch video. They still buy things. They play games. In fact, many recessions saw consumption of entertainment actually go up because people need this entertainment to help them to forget how bad the economy is. We just uploaded a video on side hustles and good business ideas in a recession. I'm going to post the link above and also at the end of the video. You can also start or buy a business. Now, the best way to protect your job in a recession is to be the boss. People think it's crazy to start a business before or during a recession, but recessions are actually a great time to be in business. We're going to cover that in that next video. Next up, refinance your debt. So interest rates, they were just slashed again. That's a good thing for debt holders. So if you're stuck at higher interest rates, get in there, renegotiate. Chances are that you can save thousands on your debt load. Now, if you have student loan debt, that's a different story because student loans actually carry loan forgiveness programs. They have plans that private lenders do not offer, so you don't want to lose that protection. Next up, and this makes some people freak out, I don't know why, hold some cryptocurrency. Now, I'm not suggesting you invest in cryptocurrency. I've never said that. Just in case of emergency. Now, does anybody really think that if the dollar tanks, if it loses value, we're going to be taking little silver slivers and gold slivers and sending them through the mail to buy things? Obviously not. Venezuela, their economy already tanked. Many people are surviving by using cryptocurrency. Holding some emergency crypto just makes sense. Even if you hate it and you have a crystal ball and you can see the future, it just makes sense to diversify because we just don't know. Next up, get yourself out of debt. Now, I see people making $90,000 a year, living in a mansion, driving an $80,000 vehicle. The average credit card holder has 4 cards in the US that carries $8,300 in credit card debt. Almost half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And if the economy tanks and they lose their jobs, they're going to be in huge trouble. The recent Twitter hashtag, with my next paycheck, I will, shows just how many people are out there struggling. 1 in 3 people have 0 emergency fund. Ask yourself, do you need that daily expensive coffee? Do you need that car that you can't afford? Do you need that giant house that most of the rooms you don't even use? Do you need to eat out every single day? Chances are that you can find that money and begin to store a little bit each day. Now, building an emergency fund, whether it's cash, silver, gold, bullion, whatever, just makes sense. Now, if you're not spending money frivolously and you're still tapped out, see the above about starting a side hustle to generate some extra money. Do not fear recessions. They have many benefits, including an unprecedented buying opportunity. Last recession, you could buy a condo in Florida for $30,000. Stocks were dirt cheap, and it isn't a bad thing unless you do nothing to prepare. I'm going to put a link to businesses that thrive in a recession above and why starting a business in a recession is actually a great idea. That derivatives bubble video, that's below. You can click that. Please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.